I want to talk about hobbies. More specifically, I want to motivate the need for hobbies in a basic level and also show off some of my hobbies. And after that, I also want to talk about what are the benefits of having hobbies. If you are like me, then you notice that in university it was in vogue to be always busy. In computer science, computer engineering, and other demanding majors where the workloads are very high, it is very common to just sit around the table and complain about your unbelievable workload. People in those majors spend 70% of their waking hours working away their assignments, spend another 20% of their time stressing about said assignments, and the remaining 10% of the time they would complain about all the work they would do. Casually Explained actually has a very good joke on the topic. The engineering discipline with the highest workload is the discipline of the engineering student you're currently talking to. And hey, it's not for no reason. These majors are incredibly demanding, and it may seem that the grind never stops mentality is rewarded while in university. Whether or not it does get rewarded is not something I want to discuss today. But I want to say, the sort of grind does stop. Sitting around the table and complaining about all the work you have to do all day outside of university is considered a bit strange. People no longer want to hear that old broken record. Life becomes a much more steady marathon rather than a collection of high intensity sprints. When you get out of university and settle down into your first full-time job, you get hit with a problem you likely never faced before. What do you even do with all this free time? Because yes, for once you do have large amounts of actually free time. Additionally, if you're not an idiot at work, meaning you don't work insane overtime and you take proper breaks, you have the energy to actually use during that free time. A whole 72 hours of free time, assuming that you sleep 8 hours a night regularly. I personally tend to fall into depression if I sit idle for too long. Being a vegetable is fine for a day or two, but I can't do it for any longer. I just need to do something. It's not that being a vegetable every once in a while is necessarily bad, more that doing so absolutely all the time can lead anyone into serious depression. Therefore, in order to keep yourself sane, deal with all your newfound time, and make you an interesting person, you need some hobbies. Now, to get the ball rolling, I will actually share some of my hobbies first. I have 3 things that I've found to be particularly fun since I graduated: cooking, listening to music while walking around Vancouver, and making YouTube videos. This isn't a comprehensive list of hobbies I have. I will mention a couple other hobbies I used to have and hope to get back into in the future a bit later in the video. So let's show off the hobbies I currently have one by one. First is cooking. And what is a better way to show off cooking than showing you a fun recipe that you could make yourself? Today, or well, whenever I film this, I'm making Uzbek plov. A quick mention during the edit. This part of the video actually turned out to be way more difficult than I anticipated, and I didn't actually manage to do it. Sorry. What I'm gonna have to do is, instead of showing the whole video, which the footage really was not good, I'll just float the recipe as a PDF and I'll put it in the description as well. Again, sorry, but let's continue with your regularly scheduled programming. Now, after eating this dish for almost an entire week, I can say that I've messed it up a bit. The teaspoons I have are pretty small, so I ended up adding 2 little spices. Regardless, it does taste great, and I have to say, this recipe is actually impressively good reheated. I would actually go as far as saying that it does not get any worse in the fridge. So that's the first hobby I have. Moving on to the next hobby. I like to go to downtown Vancouver and just walk around while listening to music. I don't think of recording videos while doing so you will have to live with a bit of a limited amount of footage, and I really can't show off the music I listen to, as most of it would get me a copyright strike. And this is a new channel, I don't want to do that. But here's a list, somewhere on the screen, of some music I do listen to while walking around. I'll try to intersperse the videos I have of Vancouver through the rest of the video. The last hobby I would want to present today is making YouTube videos. If you didn't get the meta joke here yet, seek help. Sorry, I had to make that joke. Anyways, all these hobbies I mentioned so far, I tend to do alone. This works decently well, given the state of the world right now, or at least at the time of filming. But I also have another two hobbies that I want to mention that will help set up some of the discussion a bit later on. Those two hobbies are orienteering and scuba diving. These hobbies are a lot more social and have a much bigger community than cooking in my own kitchen does, or writing YouTube video scripts for my own channel does. Now that the show and tell portion of this video is over, I would actually like to talk a bit more in depth about the actual necessity of hobbies. Let me first reiterate the three things that you get out of hobbies that I mentioned already: keeping your own sanity, dealing with all your newfound time, and making you an interesting person. Now, I would like to actually add two new points to that list. It is a way to relax and unwind, and it is a way to meet new people. Addressing the first point, keeping your own sanity is actually incredibly important. I'd like to direct you to two sources. The first being CGP Grey's 7 Ways to Maximize Misery video, and the Australian government's Department of Health's page on hobbies. To be fair, I didn't really read these before I formed my opinion or started writing this script, but I found them to be somewhat reputable sources agreeing with my point. Anyways, both of these sources will be in the description. Hobbies let you focus on things outside of work. The benefit of that is twofold. It's a way to move your attention away from the stressors you encounter at work, and it's a way to let your subconscious work on some of the problems that you have at work. Additionally, it's something to look forward to outside of work. It provides you with goals and motivation to perform at work, whether it's because you can't wait to finish the day, you need to fund your hobbies, or a combination of the two. And hey, the happier you are, the more productive you are at work and in personal life. It can create a positive feedback loop, and that is pretty much always good. All right, let's move on to the second point. The hobbies help you deal with all your newfound time. This may seem painfully obvious, but that does not change the fact that it needs to be mentioned, and the fact that it's not actually that obvious to everyone. Most of the time, when you're in university, you will not spend that much of your free time on hobbies. You would instead waste time. I am actually extremely guilty of just opening Reddit or YouTube and plopping down on a couch when I had the time to just shut off my brain. This was because I had no energy left after working an 80+ hour week and then doing all the chores around the house. But when you're out of uni, work does not actually consume nearly as much energy and most likely has well-defined time limits for when you do your work. Therefore, you likely will have a lot of energy and likely no previous thought really went into what to do with it. If you waste time like you did in uni, you'll actually feel less and less energy. Just like CGP Grey said, one way to maximize misery is to become like your laundry pile, completely inert. And another one is to maximize your screen time. This video could very well be that first thing that points out the painfully obvious for someone, and I hope that it is. Next, let's talk about the third point. The hobbies can make you a more interesting person. Let me first make my point with a question. How many times have you been caught off guard by the typical question of, tell me a bit about yourself during an interview? While you can practice your elevator pitch about how great you are at what you do, it's less likely to attract the attention of the interviewer than talking about a cool or unique hobby. It could lead down some fun small talk and make you stand out in their mind. Another thing, when talking to your coworkers, friends, parents, significant others, or your date, the more hobbies you have, the more likely you will have something to bring to the conversation. You also have a higher chance of having something in common with the person you're talking to at the moment, especially if you have a variety of hobbies that you can talk about. And hey, having a breadth of hobbies or having a single hobby that you're very devoted to is what a lot of people actually call having a personality. Now, this next point I have covered briefly already, but I would like to restate it as it is very important. Hobbies let you relax and unwind. Again, this is relatively obvious, but you should strive to have at least one hobby that is completely relaxing. Being able to reduce your overall stress levels will make you feel better long term. Also, such hobbies would let you clear your mind, make you feel more fresh, and give you a chance to shut off your brain in a healthy way. Do not discount how important that can be. And on to the last point. Hobbies are a great way to meet new people. It is incredibly difficult to make friends when you're not forced to be in the same cramped room with lots of other people for a good chunk of your day, like you had to in high school and uni. At work, you do not have a shared identity beyond striving for your employer's success and no incentives to be friends with any of your coworkers outside of work. This leaves you with surprisingly few avenues of making friends. Hobbies that have a social component or have very active communities are a good way to find like-minded people. And think about it. You also have plenty of things to talk about with them, so you're likely going to make friends with them. There are actually also some hidden benefits, hidden in there. I'm targeting this video towards people that are fresh out of university. It is a fair assumption to make that a lot of people that are fresh out of uni are still relatively young. Also, given the difficulty of finding any entry-level position, new grads without a job might even have more time and energy than those that are employed. But think about it, hobbies are not restricted to those that are fresh out of uni. You get a good cross-section of the entire society when doing those hobbies with large communities surrounding them. And the older you are, the more likely you are to be employed and further along in your career than a recent university grad. All of that combined means that joining hobbies with large communities and social components is a great way to network with people in industry. You will never know what opportunities it will lead to. The community in scuba diving is incredibly tightly knit, and people can vouch for your communication skills because you must be able to communicate effectively without using words, potentially in an environment where you're under immense pressure. The communities in orienteering, at least a lot of people I've met there, tend to be older. That means that suddenly you are connected to people that have a massive wealth of experience and connections. That can be useful in a huge variety of ways. Either way, that is all I wanted to say about that. But that is not everything I wanted to talk about. I want to actually address a small thing. If you're just starting out a hobby, don't be afraid to fail. There's so many cool things that you can learn from even failing at your hobbies for a while. Nobody starts out good, so don't be afraid to start out bad. Let me show you an example of me failing at cooking. Actually, let me go grab it right now. Just look at this dumpling. This was meant to be, a whole bunch of them, but didn't really work out. Let's just put that there. I really messed up the whole process of making dumplings, end to end. And I even managed to mess up the storage process. So all the dumplings on the bottom became that. Oh, and for an example of just being bad, just pay attention to my knife skills when I was cooking the vegetables and the meat at the beginning of the video. I still have a way to go, and that feels wonderful. So many small things to build expertise in and so many new things to try. Either way, I hope I made a good case for the necessity of hobbies, and I really hope that this was actually a useful and insightful video to some of you.